Radio St. George, 100.3 KXDI. It's Artie and Woody. It's the garden show with Woody. How are you, Woody?
I'm here, buddy.
We are doing the garden show every Saturday morning at this wonderful time, 8 o'clock in the morning, and
Middle of the night to me.
and we woke up to frost today. Well, actually, I had ice on my windshield.
Yeah, in my backyard, I had a wheelbarrow with some water in from the rain, and it froze, and so I dumped it out on the gravel, and it's been there 3 days and not melted.
Oh my goodness!
It's still ice.
Oh my goodness! Well, this is the garden show with our good friend Woody. We do this every Saturday on Radio St. George 100.3, and we want to thank our good friend Sean Denovan. He is a professor here at Dixie State University, and we want to thank him for allowing us to raid the airwaves of Radio St. George.
He's the head guy.
Yep, he's the head honcho. He's
the big kahuna.
Big kahuna, the big cheese.
Yep, Mr. Big Cheese.
So, I hope you don't catch the cold that I have, Woody. Something's going around. I think everyone has something.
Everybody but me. And if I catch it from you, Artie,
you're gonna blame me.
No, I'm gonna kill you.
So everyone listening to the program,
you just heard a threat on this line.
I was gonna say, yeah, that too. I was gonna say, everyone listening to the program, take 2 or 3 steps back away from the radio. So you don't catch whatever I have.
That's right. Well, no wonder you look a little peaked, but I noticed there's still a lot of women outside wanting your autograph.
You know what? That's kind of the problem that we have when we get here. We have to get here early because we have to wait for our hired security guards
to get us through the crowd.
And you know what? The security expenses, it's kind of getting costly, isn't it?
It really is. The more women, the more money.
Absolutely.
Oh well.
Well, okay. So last week we had a special guest from Star Nursery.
No, that was a week before.
Was it a week before?
Yeah,
it was last week.
Last week it was just me, buddy.
What?
Yeah, we were talking about pruning last week.
Okay. Oh, okay. Pruning last week, and then I think you teased that we were going to talk more about pruning today.
Yeah, we are. One little thing I want to put a plug in for is next. I've talked to Doug out of Star on Sunset, and next week is their vegetables didn't make it this week. So next week is when it's going to be better weather. Is going to be their big vegetable weekend. And I'm going to be out there. You and I will be out there if I can talk you into it.
Oh, no, absolutely. Actually,
and we'll have a table, and we'll be giving autographs and answering questions, and Artie's going to buy hot dogs and pizza for everybody.
Absolutely. Actually, noon to 2. Should we say noon to 2?
Noon to 2.
Is that what we decided on?
Yeah, noon to 2, and we'll be there, and we'll be the personalities, man.
Yep. So we'll have a table set up, and once again, I don't know how we can afford the bodyguards, though.
Well, maybe Doug will be our bodyguard.
Yeah.
Or we could come armed.
Okay.
If you ask a question, we'll answer it. If you try to get fresh, we'll shoot you.
Well, I'm not. I'll use the cattle prod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So today we're talking about pruning, an hour of pruning.
Yeah.
Ready, go.
Go. Okay. I want to go back a little bit because we covered a couple of subjects in a hurry at the end of last week, and I want to make sure because there are things that almost everybody does. And the first one is pruning roses. And I want to make sure that we understand what we're supposed to do on that. And I'm also assuming that your roses are older and existing roses that have been in a few years. So we start down at the level with the soil, and you've got a base of root and branches and so on, and it's what they call old wood. And it'll be brown. It'll have almost a bark on it like a tree.
I have tons of roses at my place, as you know.
Yeah.
Woody's been over to my place to give me some advice, and yeah, so I'm definitely interested in what you have to say about this.
So you go down there and you look at that and you try, what do you want out of this rose? If it's a show rose, you only want 2 or 3 large stems coming out of that conglomeration of wood and so on. So you look at it and you've got these brown stems and you've got 6 or 8 and they're going in all directions. So you want to take and get rid of the dead ones. You want to get rid of the ones that may be diseased, maybe have some mildew on or some rot. And when you get through, you only want to have 2 or 3 of those main stems coming up, okay?
Well, I was hesitant, to follow your advice to cut them all down to the very
right soil.
Yeah, to cut them down to the soil. But I'm glad I listened to you. But you're the expert. You should do a radio show on and give tips on gardening.
I'm going to try to get into that.
Yeah, but no, seriously. I mean, your advice worked. It came up bigger and better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you have to have a little faith in what you're doing, especially with roses. And we're going to talk about trimming tomatoes, and that takes a lot of faith. But if you do it, if you have the courage to do it, it pays off. So you have 2 or 3 of these stalks coming up, and they're these brown. When you're talking about shrubs and you're talking about roses and you're talking about trees and that type of thing, we're talking about old growth, which is your brown at the bottom, and then we talk about 2-year-old growth, which is the next level where the brown turns to a green. They're green and they're starting to turn brown. That's your 2-year-old wood. And then the green wood is your 1-year-old wood, all right? And you want to go down to the 2-year-old wood. Let's say it changes to the 2-year-old wood at about usually between 1 foot and 18 inches off the ground. And as fast as roses grow down here, I would go down about to that 2-year-old wood, and then you count up 3 buds, where the limbs and that are going to come
little
out.
Notches.
Those little nubbins.
Yeah.
You count up 3 and you cut it with some sharp trimmers that have been soaked in some disinfectant.
Now, why is that? I've never done that.
Yeah, I know. I haven't either. But everything I read tells me I should do that. Not only when I go from the tomatoes to the roses, but when I go from rose to rose.
Oh.
I should clean them in between. So if one rose has a disease, you're not taking it to the next rose.
Wow. Oh, okay.
So you cut it off at a 90 degree and you cut it just above the bud, the 3rd bud. And the reason for that is if you cut it up an inch, when the bud comes out and starts a new limb that goes up, you're going to have a 1-inch dead nub there.
Oh, okay.
And they look like hell.
Yeah.
And so you want to cut it as close to the bud as you can and still be a bud above the bud.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then your rose is going to shoot on that 3rd bud. It's going to shoot out a new upright, new growth. And the new growth is where all your roses and stuff are going to be. And then you're good for until fall, except for you want to be able to deadhead your roses. People say, well, why prune? If you didn't prune roses down here, you'd have roses 10 feet tall, and the size of an elephant.
Well, my front yard rose bush did get out of control bad.
It was 4 feet around at the bottom.
It was freaking huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the other thing it does is it opens the plant up to sunshine. You know, when you have a big rose bush like yours was, and you start to correct it and get in and cut it, you find all this dead stuff in the middle.
There was tons of dead weeds.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in order to maintain a rose and keep it healthy, you don't want any of that. So you're going to open it up. You want to get rid of all the disease and all the dead leaves and all that business. And then it allows the sun to get down in there, okay? And it keeps the rose healthy. And then the only other thing you have to watch for is the insects, the aphids. And if you have that, then we talked about rose food that you give it. It's a granule, and you shake it on the ground, and then water, and it's systemic, and it goes up the rose and kills the aphids. Other than having the ladybugs, we talked about ladybugs. They like to eat aphids. Praying mantises do too. So there are natural ways to get rid of that type of thing. Okay? You can spray the roses themselves up on top with an insecticide, and it'll kill the aphids, but they'll only be gone for a day or two, and they'll be back, unless you get something that's systemic. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so I wanted to review that. Now, the one I have to convince everybody about is tomatoes. Tomatoes come in 2 categories, determinate and indeterminate. And on the label, on the tomato, if you buy one, or if you buy a seed package, on the back, it'll tell you if it's determinate or indeterminate. Determinate tomatoes, it's talking about the shape and the characteristics of the plant. Determinate tomatoes are basically a low-growing bush, okay, that grows, 18 inches high. It's has a certain shape to it. It isn't an upright tomato. It's a bush, and it bears once in the middle of summer, and then it's done.
Does it die, or is it just dormant?
It doesn't die. It doesn't die, but it's true bearing. So you might as well pull it out and go put it in the garbage because it's over.
Oh, okay.
You might get 15 or 20 tomatoes on, but you're through. It's done. And I don't like that characteristic. So I buy the indeterminate. Now, indeterminate means that it's an upright tomato, it's a tall tomato, and it continues to grow up. If you have a trellis, it climbs the trellis. Now, the good thing about an indeterminate tomato is that it bears fruit from, say, June all the way through until the frost. So it may only have 5 or 6 tomatoes on at once, but it'll have 5 or 6 tomatoes on for 4 months. Okay? And mine get as tall as 4 or 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
If they have a support.
So are those more expensive and more
No.
time-consuming as far as maintenance is concerned?
Well, you put a little more time into it, but if you're getting tomatoes, that's probably well worth it.
And my second question is it a fruit? Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
It's a fruit.
Are you sure?
Yes. I am sure. How do I know that? I saw it on the internet. It was a joke. It said just because the tomato is a fruit doesn't mean you put it in fruit smoothies.
So is that a long-running debate?
I don't know.
Fruit or vegetables?
I think it's a joke. I don't know if it's okay, so...
Boy, I just derailed our conversation
I know.
there. I'm so sorry.
I know you're interrupting me. And then you derail my thought process, and then I'm finished, Let's go home. Program's over, folks.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Okay, indeterminate tomatoes you have to prune. And people aren't used to pruning tomatoes, so we're going to tell you how. On the indeterminate tomato, you let it get, say, 2 feet high. And then you've got the main stalk of the tomato, and you've got branches coming off. Okay, you prune it in 2 different ways. Where the branch comes off, a lot of times right where the branch comes off and the stalk goes up, right in that little Y area, you'll start to get a little shoot. Leaves start to come out, and it starts to grow another branch. Well, those are called suckers, and they're actually a wild tomato that's coming in your domestic tomato. In other words, they'll never provide you with a tomato. So you reach in with your little fingers, your thumb and your forefinger, and you pinch off that little sprout.
So how do you identify that it's a sucker?
Well, it's because
it has a leaf on it.
It's right where the
Y.
Y.
Okay, I got it.
It's right at the Y. So you reach in and you pinch that off.
All right.
That's one way to trim a tomato. The other way is if you start at the bottom of a tomato and you look at it limb by limb, some of the limbs will go out and they'll have blossoms on. Okay, that's where your productivity comes. That's where your tomatoes come. Other limbs will go out and they'll have just leaves on them. Never have a blossom. If they live 100 years, they'll never have a blossom.
Really?
Yeah. So what you do is take your nippers and you go back to the stalk and you cut it off. So the branches that have just leaves, you want to get rid of about 2/3 of them. Now, this benefits the plant in this way. It opens the plant up. It allows air to get through so you don't get mildews and things like that. And it allows the sun to get into the plants. The photosynthesis has to have sun, and all the leaves on a plant have to have sun. And you get a better plant if it's open and it's getting the sun in there. And when they say full sun, they're talking 6 hours of sun a day. So then within about a week, that plant recovers from being trimmed because it kind of knocks it for a loop for about a week. And then you'll notice that your blossoms are bigger, stronger, and when you have tomatoes, the tomatoes are bigger and they taste better.
Cool.
Because you're not growing that plant because you want the biggest tomato plant in the neighborhood. You're growing it because you want the biggest tomatoes in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to, the plant wants to be healthy and it wants to be big and it wants to be 12 feet around, and you don't. And then the other thing you want to do is to be sure and stake it up. These tomatoes, these indeterminate tomatoes, need support. They don't want to be laying over on the ground. So you can buy baskets. The tomato, they're in a V shape, and you stick them in the ground.
Oh, the wire things?
The wire things.
Okay, yeah.
You can buy those, or you can buy wooden stakes, or you can make them if you have some of that type of wood around your place. I buy field fence. You go to a Cal Wrench store or Intermountain Farmers, and they have field fence, and it's heavy-duty steel fencing that they actually use for cattle, and it's about the diameter. It's almost as big as a pencil in diameter.
Huh.
And it comes in pieces that are 5 feet high and 20 feet long. So I'll take my trailer and go over and get a couple of those, bring them home, and I take my grinder and I cut them in pieces and for my tomatoes, I use a piece that's about a foot to 14 inches wide. Maybe it has 3 squares. The shape of the fencing is in squares.
Okay.
And about 4 feet high. And I put it down in the soil, and then I use the green stretchy ribbon that they sell for plants.
Sure.
And tie the tomatoes to that field fence. And that field fence is really tough, and it does a really good job.
Good advice. Good advice.
So that's the thing on tomatoes. And then during the year, you want to put some compost around them. You want to put a little manure around them. The only other thing that I do is I use the blossom set to actually set the tomatoes. The temperature at night has to be 60, 65 degrees before blossoms will set into fruit. And they need calcium to be able to set. And that blossom spray isn't anything but calcium. And you can buy bone meal and put around the plant and water it in, and it'll do the same thing. Or you can just buy that spray bottle and kind of spritz, they say, spritz the blossoms. And you can also do that on squash blossoms and pepper blossoms, and it'll set the blossoms. And it costs at Star, they're $10 a bottle for, I think, 16 ounces, and it lasts you, a pretty good amount of time, unless you have a big farm or something. I've got to have some medicine. My throat's cold,
Okay, so I asked Google. Google, is the tomato a fruit?
Oh.
And according to Google, it definitely is a fruit.
I told you.
Yep.
So tomatoes are fruit, and you're a fruit, and I'm a vegetable.
And then people also ask, is a cucumber fruit? Wait,
what does it say? What does it say?
It says, by definition, a cucumber is also a fruit.
You're kidding.
According to Google.
That I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah. Is carrot a fruit? Let's see what Google says. What? Same with the banana, plum, etc. Hence, tomato is a fruit.
How about a carrot?
That's what it mentions. A vegetable like a carrot flowers and produces seeds.
So a carrot is a vegetable.
Is broccoli a fruit?
No.
No.
No. Yeah.
Wait.
I knew that.
Fruit is a mixture. Okay, I derailed our show.
Yeah, you did.
All right, let's go back.
Again.
I'm sorry.
There's a few things that I want to talk about that we talked about the first show, and we only had 2 listeners on that show, so I thought I'd bring them back up again. And they're about the structure of your garden. Gardens, you can have the kind of garden that you plow up the North 40 and you it's on the ground and you till it and you work it and you put rows in and you plant stuff. Or you can have the kind of garden where you have raised gardens that are popular. And when we say gardens, we're also talking about flowers and that kind of thing. Well, that's all well and good, but there are ways to make your garden more interesting. Okay? And I want to talk about those ways to do that.
Okay.
So, how do we go out to Artie's house and make it more beautiful, more interesting?
And I need your help because my lawn chair
woman,
my lawn chair neighbor, she sits in her lawn chair with her binoculars and watches me all day from her backyard.
I think she's watching the garden, Artie. I'm not sure. Are you wearing your Bermudas again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what she's
So
watching.
I need your help to beautify my place for my lawn chair lady.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you some ways to make your garden more interesting. And the number one way that people don't think about a lot, it's getting more popular, but is lighting.
Okay.
Lighting your garden. So let's say that there's these little lights you can buy. The old kind had a wire, and they had a transformer, and they had a timer. And you would put them around the edge of your garden or your walk, and they were 4 watts. They weren't real powerful. And you'd string them all together and splice them into the main wire and plug it into an outlet, and then you had a timer. They come on at 7 o'clock at night, and they go off at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they're basically an AC type, alternating current type of light, and they work fine. There's several issues, and that is that people mainly just put them around the edge, and then daylight savings time changes, and you have to change the timer, and you have to, put them back an hour, put them forward an hour, that type of thing, and you're using electricity.
Yeah.
Then they come out with the solar lights. Now, the solar lights are really great, and you can buy them at Walmart for $1 a piece. You can go over and get them at Lowe's, which is where I buy mine, because Lowe's has a larger selection. The solar lights require no wire, no timer. It's all built in. The sun shines on them. They store the solar in one little rechargeable battery, an alkaline battery. And then at night, when the electric eye tells it it's gotten dark, it comes on. And it stays on as long as the battery is there. Usually they wear off and go dim before morning. Okay.
So that's cost effective.
It is. It's wonderful. Something that a lot of people don't know about solar lights is that the industry of solar lights has chosen a standard, and I don't know how they did it. But let's say, they measure lighting in looms.
Okay.
And so maybe it's 400 looms.
Okay.
Like a luminaire, And they have decided that 1 equals, let's say, 300. So you go in and it says this light, if you read on the box, is 1 times. So, okay, that's 300 looms. But the next box over is 2 times. So that's 600 looms. Next box over is 3 times and up to 4 times. Well, what it's telling you is the first box is dim, the last box is bright.
It's super bright. Okay.
Yeah. So one thing you don't want to buy is a variety, because then you're going to have 1 dull light, 1 medium light, 1 really bright light.
I see.
So you've got to decide when you're going to, and the price increases with the stronger the light is. But the one lights are the ones that you have at stores that are $1 or $2 a piece. The ones that are 4 are more like $10 a piece.
Wow.
So you want to be aware of that and not mix them up.
Okay.
The other thing that's good about solar is you can put them anywhere. So, I can put it along the sidewalk and along the driveway, but I can also put it out in the middle of the garden. I can put it next to a bush, and that's what makes your garden look good, is to have them, kind of under the edge of a bush, kind of next to the house, kind of out by a tree, not always in a line right along the driveway. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
And the other kind of lighting that you can do, and they have solar lights for this also, is to put something up on the wall of your house with a spotlight that shows down into the garden or into the yard. And that also can be a benefit to you as far as security in your yard goes.
And they also make those in solar.
Yeah,
as
solar,
well, right? Is that
solar,
okay?
and they're motion detectors.
Okay.
So if a person walks through your yard, the light turns on and makes them apprehensive and they run away if they're a window peeker trying to get Artie in his shorts.
No, well, it's my lawn chair lady next door that likes to creep over at night.
Oh, she's over there at night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
She's over there at night.
You know, she's really something.
And
So-
you know, she goes through my trash.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. So she likes to see what I throw away.
She has very low standards. Anyway, so you've got those kind of lights that make a lot of difference on your yard at night if you want it to look good. Okay, the other thing is a lot of people have patios, and you put your barbecue out there, you put your little round table, and you put your chairs. You can use your imagination, and if you have a yard that's big enough, you can say, I'm going to go out here in this corner, and I'm going to put some patio stones, and I'm going to put my chair and my barbecue and my table out there with some lights around it. And then I'm going to plant some shrubs around it so that my lawn chair lady can't see into where we're having our party.
Exactly.
See?
Oh, she'll find a way, though.
So you can do things like that make a yard more interesting. It's they call it having a group area. So maybe your teenagers want a place where they can visit and enjoy their marijuana and whatever they have. And so, if you have one of these group areas with a couple of lights on it and some bushes and some chairs, it's really nice. Okay, so that's, you got to use your imagination. Okay, the next thing you can do for a yard that helps it to look different is you can actually elevate a portion of it. If you think about all the temple grounds, some of the parks that you see up in Salt Lake and different areas, they'll have a mound out in the middle of the lawn. They'll have a mound and they'll have flowers planted in it.
Oh, okay. That kind of breaks it.
Yeah, they don't plant it flat. They mound dirt up maybe 2-3 feet.
Now, what's the benefit of that?
It's just to give a variety and to change the elevation.
Okay.
You could put in maybe a windbreak of trees. You put some trees, put some bushes, and then mound up an area and plant it with bedding plants. And so you can change elevation, or maybe you can, if you've got a large area, you could change the whole corner of your yard and make it higher.
Okay.
Or you can dig down and make it lower. One of the things that's really popular right now are fire pits.
Yeah, they are. I've seen a lot of those for sale at Lowe's and.
Right, and they're for these sitting groups where there's 2 or 3 people sitting around in the evening, and it gets dark, and you light the fire pit, and maybe do some hot dogs or marshmallows, or just enjoy the fire.
Or if you're a teenager, smoke some marijuana around the fire pit,
and you can put the marijuana on the end of the little poker and burn it.
Okay.
But so the fire pits are another thing that encourages people to go out into the yard.
Okay.
All right. And they're a lot of fun. Now, I have one that I got from, the next to Colorland Tool on Bluff. There's a place called Botanicals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they have these huge pots. Well, that fellow in there makes a fire pot, and it's a large pot, and he puts a burner in it, and he puts a lava rock on it, and drills a hole in the bottom of the pot. They're concrete pots, and runs a hose over to a propane tank, and they're a lot of fun.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Cool.
And you can have a small flame, or you can have a large flame, and they're fun to sit around and watch. There's something about fire that fascinates people.
Sure.
And if you have a group of people, a mutual group, or maybe the grandkids come down, it's kind of fun to sit around the fire and talk and
absolutely,
and do some barbecue or something.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's a great idea.
Okay, I have one more idea. Well, no, I have several more ideas. The next thing is water.
Oh, like a fountain or a waterfall?
A water feature of some sort. Mm-hmm. I just bought, last fall, Star Nursery had all their pots half off. All their planting pots, Mm-hmm. And, they're fairly expensive. They can be $60, $70, $100. But half off is a lot better.
Sure.
So I went over and looked around, and they had a bird bath.
Oh.
And it's a terracotta bird bath. You know what terracotta is? Kind of orange colored.
Okay.
Like the Spanish tile.
Sure.
Well, that's the color of my roof. So out on my back lawn where I just put the gravel down and did away with the lawn, I put this bird bath. And it has a stand, and then it has a large dish on top. Mm-hmm. And you keep it fresh, hopefully, with some good water. Birds have a really tough time in an urban environment getting water, more so than food.
Really?
It's harder for them to find water. And I can testify to you that in my bird bath days, I'll have 6 or 8 birds at once in there bathing and drinking.
Oh, my cats would just go nuts.
Yeah.
They would. That's tons of entertainment for them to line up on the windowsill and watch the birds.
I have robins. I have everything from blackbirds and the ravens to the little hummingbirds.
Even the hummingbirds.
Yeah, they're really funny because they'll get down on the edge and they'll bend over and get some water with their long beak, and suck it in. And then another one will come and scare it away, and it'll get. They fight over it.
That's interesting.
And what's really funny is I have like orioles and these kind of birds, and they get in. Once in a while, they'll go right down in the water, and then they spritz their wings and splash
around.
And they're taking a shower.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But water is another thing that we'd like to look at, like a fountain where it has levels in the water, and you can hear it bubbling and all that. And it makes a yard more interesting, and it's really a good thing to put out where your sitting group is to have some water. And it is helping bring the wildlife into your yard. Now, some wildlife in your yard is desirable and some's undesirable.
Sure.
The desirable wildlife would be things like squirrels, birds. I love birds.
Cats. Lots of cats.
Dogs.
Yes.
The undesirable would be the skunks, the raccoons, the coyotes, that type of thing. And I have all those in my backyard at time to time. It's really a funny feeling to look out your slider and see a coyote standing on your patio.
Wow.
And I've had that before.
It's interesting. At different parts of town, they have, coyotes. And like I'm in Washington Fields. I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
We have deer in Washington Fields, and that's about it. But you're in Bloomington, and you have everything, I think, right?
I'm in Bloomington, and we have a bad problem with skunks.
Really?
And we have raccoons that come through, and the raccoons will sometimes kill a small dog.
Yeah.
Or a cat.
Cats, yes.
And they dig up the lawn. They're after grubs. And if they can smell a grub down in the lawn, they dig it. Same with skunks. And if you happen to go out, or your dog happens to go out and find a skunk and chase it and get sprayed,
disaster.
You have got a real problem.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So water features.
Yeah. And the other thing you can have are fish.
Fish. Oh, okay. Like koi ponds.
Yeah. Koi or goldfish, just goldfish.
What technically is a koi pond? Just a big pit in the ground with water?
Yeah, it's a pit in the ground, but it's more complex than that. You need a base for the pond, and they have plastic ponds that you buy and bury in and then fill with water. If you're going to do a natural pond, they usually put concrete down, and then they'll put some sort of covering on it, and then they put different types of soil in there that will settle down and form a natural pond thing, and then you plant some plants and then put some fish in, and it's a big operation.
More entertainment for my cats.
Yeah, and you have to have a inlet of water and an outlet of water for the water to stay fresh. Okay, so I've got a fountain that's got 3 levels, and I have a pump in the bottom, and it takes the water from the bottom tray, pumps it up to the top, and then it cascades down. But once a day in the summer, because it evaporates, I have to put fresh water in it because it won't stay fresh itself because it doesn't have an inlet and an outlet.
Do you have any of those motion detector lights in your backyard?
Uh-huh.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about sneaking over.
I know you were.
And putting laundry detergent in your fountain.
Yeah, that'd be okay. That doesn't bother me much. It's interesting. My birds in the yard will bath in my fountain.
Really?
They stand on the edge and they drink, and then they go in and have a bath. And if you go out there and get too close, they start flying at you to warn you to stay away from their fountain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They love that little fountain. So I have, right now, I have the fountain for water, and then I have bird feeders with seed to give them food. But like I say, water is more important to them or harder for them to come by.
I didn't know that.
Than the food is.
Oh.
And I found out, talking about gardens and outside, that, you go to Walmart and there's the cheap food, and I'm cheap, so I buy the cheap food.
Oh.
And then they have the medium food and they have the more expensive food.
So what's the difference?
Well, my daughter told
quality,
me.
Obviously, but
my daughter told me if you buy the more expensive food, you get songbirds that are colorful. And I said, no, it doesn't make any difference. Food's food. And she bought me a bag, and I put it in, and sure enough, I get totally different birds.
Really?
Yeah. I get different birds than I do with the cheap food.
Huh.
So I think with the cheap food, I think I get cheap birds.
Well,
and with the expensive food, I get the expensive birds.
And if you leave your garbage can lid open, you'll get seagulls.
Oh, yeah.
The state bird.
Yeah.
Will come and visit.
They're great. Yeah, they're great. Then you can have target practice.
Wait, that's our state bird.
One of the birds that I have in my yard that I fail to appreciate are the doves. Because, for one thing, they're out there all summer cooing, and the cooing of the doves gets, I'm out doing a wood project or doing some gardening, and you listen to that cooing for 2 or 3 hours, and you want to kill the dove. I told one of my neighbors that. I told him that story, and find out that he sits out there with a pellet gun and shoots him.
We're not advocating.
No, we're not. But, and I've never killed a dove. I never have. But one thing that I'll warn you about a dove is that, like, if you have gravel, they'll go out in the gravel and they'll lay an egg right in the gravel. No nest.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're lazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then, I've seen them lay them in the street where you drive your car, and the egg will sit there, and they don't particularly nested or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, no, yeah, they just leave it there, and if somebody steps on it, it's too bad.
You sure it was an egg?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was something else.
No, it was an egg. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of hummingbirds in our yard, and if you can spot where the hummingbird nest is, if you get a ladder and you climb up and look in the nest, they have eggs in that nest that are smaller than a pea.
Oh, wow.
And there'll be 2 or 3 little eggs in there. And then in a week or two, there'll be 2 or 3 little hummingbirds sticking their heads out. And the mom comes, she goes and gets nectar, and she comes and feeds the babies.
Oh, wow.
And then after about 10 days, the babies take off, and they do another nest. Robins will do 2 and 3 batches of babies a year in your yard if you have a nest of robins.
Wow.
I just built a birdhouse. I got instructions online for a birdhouse for a western bluebird.
Okay.
And the design of the house and the size of the hole that the birds use to get in determine what birds will use that house.
Really?
Yeah. So in order to keep the sparrows out and the starlings out and the orioles out, for western bluebirds, it takes a hole exactly 1.5 inches.
Wow.
And you know the little dowel you put in for them to stand
For the
on?
perch, yeah.
They can't have a perch.
For the
The
bluebirds.
western bluebirds won't use a perch. They'll go into the house, but if you put a perch, then you'll get a different kind of bird.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And all these different birds have different size. And then the direction that you face it's said to face it to the east where it gets the morning sun and to put it across within 10 to 15 feet of a tree so they can light in the tree and make sure the house is safe and then fly over to the house.
Wow. Well, that's kind of cool. That's really cool.
I haven't, it's been up 2 days and I haven't got any birds in it yet.
Well, you
But I'm gonna keep you informed on the western bluebirds, because I would love to have those in my yard.
Yeah. Well,
They're absolutely beautiful.
Well, you're coming up with some great ideas as far as beautifying. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Beautifying your
yard.
yard. Lights. We talked about stones. We talked about fish ponds and bird baths and all this great stuff.
And elevation changes.
Elevation, yeah.
And another thing that you can do, I do a lot of home improvement stuff. Handyman stuff. When you build a deck, you can make it different levels, and it kind of makes it more interesting. So let's say that you're building a deck, and your idea is to make it into a square. Now, there's a lot of imagination, Well, instead of a square, make it an oval, and where the oval ends, step down 7 or 8 inches and make another oval.
It's a good idea.
And have different seating areas. Have a table and 4 or 5 chairs, and down on the next level, maybe have a ottoman and a recliner type of, only outdoor, of course.
Sure.
And then you can put railings, decorative railings, and you can curve them. And then on the rails, you can put little lights. Solar lights.
Oh, those little string lights.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, not string lights. You bring them up from underneath and you mount them on the posts.
Okay.
And then at night, when people are walking from one level to another, they can see where they're walking.
Oh, okay.
You're not in the dark falling over.
That makes sense.
Which is what I do a lot. So there's hundreds of things you can do outside. And if you think about this ahead of time when you're putting in your yard, if you're rich and you have a landscaper, it's easy because you just tell him what you want. I'm not rich, I'm cheap. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before.
I'm cheap.
I did my own, and so for me it was a year-to-year thing.
What's your thoughts about awnings?
Awnings. I have awnings over 2 of my patios.
Are they retractable? What are the difference?
No, these aren't retractable. They're kind of a Spanish type of awning design. It's not the old aluminum awning with the just silver poles that go up and like pipe. It's a step above that, and they have companies in town, the Awning Company and Stewart Awning, that will come and give you bids, and they're very attractive. Awnings are almost a necessity here.
Oh, yeah.
Awnings, and another thing that you can put out in your yard is the sunscreen on your windows. On the west side of our house, when we moved in, there was no trees or vegetation, and in the afternoon, the windows on the west side of the house would get so hot. Now, these are thermal windows.
Sure.
And they would get so hot that you would burn your hand if you put it on the inside of the window and touched it. So we had a company make these. They're just like a screen, only they use a sunscreen instead of a regular screen.
Oh.
And it takes out about 75 to 80% of the sun's rays.
Oh.
And we had those put on. It cost a couple $100 on the west side. And then you could go touch that window. It wasn't cool, but it wasn't burning either.
Well, that also brings up the idea of having misters as well.
Right.
To keep things cool. And Woody and I both volunteer at the All Abilities Park, Thunder Junction. We drive the train. And this last summer, actually it was the end of the summers when they installed those things.
Misters.
But you know what? The temperature really dropped. I was really shocked.
They're pretty good. The problem with theirs is they drip on you. Besides,
yeah, that's true.
I tried misters under my patio roof, and I was kind of disappointed in it. Yeah. So I took the misters out, and I put a fan. It's under the roof, and
that's an idea too.
I brought a conduit up the wall, and I put a brace out, and I put a 52-inch fan. And when I'm barbecuing, you'll be barbecuing or you'll be eating your hamburger.
Yeah.
And flies come around, and insects and bother you while you're trying to eat. Well, the interesting thing is when you have a fan, if the air is moving, those insects don't come around.
Oh, that's interesting.
It'll keep that away from your table, away from your plate, if there's movement of air. Oh. And anytime air is moving, it feels cooler to the body, even though it's the same temperature.
Oh, that's a great idea. Outdoor fans.
Outdoor fans. If you have a roof and you don't have weather under there, you can put a fan. The kind of fan you buy over at Lowe's or yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So let's see, what other ideas are there for outdoor things?
Bug zappers.
Oh, bug zappers are fun. The only problem I have with bug zappers is I want to sit and watch them all the time.
Yeah.
Watch them fry the bugs.
Sure, that's great entertainment.
Yeah.
And if you like to eat bugs, that's an instant meal.
One of the new things that's available, if you have a stereo system, you can have some Bluetooth speakers. And if you're out there in a group sitting out in the yard like we talked about, you can have music out there and not run wire and all that. You just can take a wireless speaker out and turn your stereo on and have a little music.
That's a great idea.
And that way the kids can smoke their marijuana by music.
So during this program, we've advocated kids smoking marijuana, shooting doves.
Yeah. Window peeking.
Window peeking.
This might be our last program, Artie. This might be the last one.
You know what? I see those decorative lights also. I think I would actually have a nice I kind of have an awning.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
you could put a few of those
lights would be
lights,
actually kind of neat. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm glad I listened to the show this week.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that makes a difference outside is, of course, the trees, the shrubs, what you pick. You know, don't buy all one shrub, don't buy all one tree. Have different ones with different colors of green, different textures of leaves, different shapes of leaves, different heights of trees. It all goes to variety.
Sure.
And as humans, we appreciate variety. If everything was the same, it'd be a pretty boring world.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have different
good advice.
Different things. Yeah.
Good advice.
It makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Cool.
So let's see, what's the time, Marty? We're just about done.
Yeah, we have about 4 minutes. So let's remind everybody again. So we're going to be at Star Nursery signing autographs
next Saturday.
From noon
to 2.
Okay, from noon to 2, signing autographs.
How much are we going to charge for the autographs?
I'm thinking good $20.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you think?
20 for yours and $2 for mine.
You come by and ask questions and say hi and
if our wives are there, don't come up and say you're one of our girlfriends.
Absolutely,
because that'll get us in trouble.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if my lawn chair lady might show up. She probably will.
She might. She might show up.
And she takes her lawn chair everywhere she goes.
Are you going to bring some of your cats for adoption?
Absolutely. I'll be giving those cats away.
That'll be our door prize.
All the cats you can fit in a box for $5.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess a number between 1 and 2 and get a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Star Nursery
on Sunset.
To kind of give them a little plug. I guess during President's Weekend, they have their big vegetable sale thing.
But they didn't show up this week. Part of them did. Okay. They have a few in, but not very many. I was there yesterday.
Okay.
So I saw Doug. He was asleep in his office. I had to wake him up.
we love Doug.
Yes, he's a great guy. He's not quite as nice as me, but he's pretty close.
So what do you want to talk about next week? What's on the docket?
I don't know. What should we talk about next week?
Well,
maybe our callers could call in and.
Yeah, well, things are starting to thaw out. Well, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So
I think we're gonna maybe talk about planting tomatoes, and maybe we'll spend some time on peppers. You know, peppers are getting to where they're next to tomatoes. They're the most popular crop that we grow.
You know, my father was always interested in cactus. So I'm wondering if we can maybe talk about different kinds of cactus.
Okay.
And
maybe we talk about the ones that you're better off to buy the plant and ones that you can put in seed.
Okay.
I mean, I've got to come out of the closet. I'm the seed representative for Burpee Seed for Southern Utah. So all the stores you go to and they have these big Burpee Seed displays. I maintain those.
That's you.
That's me. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about seed. They're not a sponsor of the show. They're not connected in any way other than I do both of them. But I do know more probably about seed than I know about anything.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to. Okay. And also I have tons of questions about growing grass. Front lawns or my little section of my lawn is just horrible. But yeah, we need to talk about lawns and when should I start putting that pre-emergent stuff on?
Yeah.
So
and this right now, the reason we did the pruning is because right now is when you should prune roses, grapes, and trees.
Perfect. Well, Woody, thanks once again for another exciting edition of the Garden Show with Woody.
It's been a hunk of heaven, man.
Yeah. We want to thank Sean Denovan for letting us do the show. He's the professor here at Dixie State University. And we want to thank the university for allowing us to use their facilities. these facilities are state of the art. They're just incredible. The students are actually really spoiled with this equipment. So Sean really does a great job with his program here.
And if we knew what we were doing, it'd really be neat.
Exactly. All right. Well, that does it for us. It's Radio St. George 100.3 KXDI. Woody, we'll see you next Saturday at 8.
Okay. Be there or be square.
All right. Oh, I better turn on the radio. Hold on. Oh, there it is.